Hey legends, welcome to the Connect podcast,
a no BS approach to connecting people,
connecting businesses,
connecting communities.
and connecting successes. Connection is why we're here.
So where did Coutts all start?
Oh, yeah. So it's not as an empowering female story as everyone thinks. I think I fell into that. But Michelle Coutts had a conveyancing business. And she said, you can come and help me out. Do you want to buy the business?
I did not know this.
This is cool. How do you keep up with it? Like, how many coffees do you have a day?
Oh,
That's
I
one
love
question.
coffee, but I never finish it. I have too many.
That's like my missus. That's like my missus.
We got married and then I fell pregnant. It was a, it's a devastating day. I say that with all this.
That's not the word I was expecting.
I love my friends where they say to my girls, she doesn't mean it. They go, yes, she does. Everyone was either maroon or blue. Maroon, blue. If you're not maroon and blue and you're not serious about law, and I was really advocate on, well, I want to be me and I want to be authentic. I always say, have the right mentors, have the right people. You don't have to have them forever, but pick that right circle. Make sure you connect with these boys. Connect.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Connect podcast. Today we're on episode 10 and we have an extra special guest on today, a very vibrant and well-known person in our community, in our Macarthur community. You can hear her laughing in the background. A very well-established businesswoman, a very educated businesswoman, 55 staff, 25 years in the legal industry. She's been running Coutts for 17 years. There's a whole list of, I've counted about 21 awards and public recognitions. Incredible woman. We have Adriana Care from Coutts. Welcome today.
That's very humbling. Thank you.
I was going to keep going on.
I
was going to keep going on and on. There's International Women in Business Business of the Year Award.
Award after award.
Yeah. But you know what? Let's just get into her. Let's get into understanding her. And welcome to the show, Adriana.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. But let's just make sure my potty mouth doesn't come out, hey?
Look, that's up to you. I told you at the start, we only get a limited number of beeps.
I want everyone to think I'm that really, high-standing, established woman, but let's be honest.
We can't work magic, right? We can't work magic, but we'll try our best.
Adriana, tell me, amongst all those awards, and very prominent person in the area and very active in different circles, I want to know what Adriana was like as a kid growing up.
Oh, very different. Not where I am now. So, we came out at the Oaks when I was 7, and I'm a Liverpool girl, born in Liverpool. My parents were both born overseas in Italy, but came here as kids and had all the trial and tribulation. That migrant where they worked from nothing. Dad came to Australia for 5 years without them and brought them over, etc. Both my parents weren't very well educated. Dad dropped out of Newtown Boys High, I think in Year 9, and Mum, unfortunately, due to what they call today bullying, but back then was just a way of life, dropped out in Year 7 and became a seamstress. So, I'm one of 3. I've got 2 brothers, so I was a tomboy and I was out there playing rugby league. Both my brothers are massive rugby league players, played in the local area for Oakdale, Camden, Picton.
Because you're a massive
West.
Bulldogs fans, right?
Oh, yeah. You want me to repeat that because my children and my husband will be listening, but they're not my favourite team.
You're talking a lot of smack about it.
I wish them well, not. And unfortunately, the Dragons might not see that 8, which is really unfortunate. Probably don't deserve it, but you always wish. I say this to everyone. You always have one bad relationship in your life, and the Dogs and the Dragons are mine. But I'm hoping the Dragons will come good, like every relationship that you stick with.
Stick it out long enough. Yeah.
Sorry. So as a kid, let's go. Well, that's why I follow the Dragons because of my dad, because he follows the Dragons. Isn't that what every girl does? Follows what their dad does. Because I've got 2 girls that follow the Dogs because of their father. But I had 2 brothers. I was a tomboy out there. I loved rugby league. I wish I was growing up in today's day and age. I'd be playing rugby league with the girls. I love watching the girls play rugby league. My eldest is playing rugby league at the moment. I think it's quite a brutal sport for girls, but I still wish, I had that opportunity. But I played rugby league with my brothers. Back then a lot of girls didn't play, so I got into hockey. But as a young one, I was very quiet. That's why I say very different to today. If you read my report in primary school when I was at the Oaks, I used to say doesn't speak up, doesn't speak, doesn't answer, doesn't say anything. I was just very timid and shy.
Yeah.
But I found my voice.
And what a voice it is.
And I'm making it up. Yeah. So, and I mean, just we grew up on, my parents moved out to the Oaks because we were quite poor and they wanted land, loved the land. Even my dad worked in the city forever until he retired, but we had 50 acres out the Oaks. And I was that kid. Well, we had a household where if someone was out building a fence, we were all out building a fence. And if we were inside cleaning, everyone was cleaning. We're a big sporting family, even though my parents are migrants. You'd think we'd be big soccer, having the Italian background, but we were all hopeless at soccer. So my brothers are rugby league players, but we were always doing sport. My parents are big believers that you just put kids in team sports and, let the community, mold them with you. Yeah, it's a whole, that's what we were. And I was a bit of a country girl, which you wouldn't think now because I don't love the country. I actually don't do anything anymore, but, my parents had a little bit of veggie patch and like Europeans do, self-sufficient because we were very poor and that was our life. It was very simple and it was lovely.
Wow, it's good. And then, I read Camden High. So you were in the Oaks and then Camden High School.
Yep, love Camden High. It's not what Camden High, it was basically you went to Camden or you went to Elderslie. Ironically, my husband is an Elderslie boy. Don't know how that happened. We hate Elderslie and Camden hate each other's guts back then. Yeah. I don't know if they still do. Unless you went to a private school, which we couldn't afford. Not that it was on the radar either, to be honest. I think that was just what you did. You went to the local high school. It's not like handpicking like we do these days. And Camden High was just, I'm going to say it. If I look back, it's probably created the resilience that I had and the voice that I had. It's a very Anglo high school back then. I mean, my late 40s, so you'd had hardly any Europeans or like children of Europeans. So, I mean, what you call in today's society might have been a bit racist. There were some racist challenges back then, but back then it was just you get over it. And, I had a big rugby league older brother that pretty much protected me.
That did help.
Morris was a bit of a legend and he ended up getting expelled from Camden.
but it is two ways to handle it, right? Like you can use, like there's always going to be those racial undertones, but you can use it as an excuse or you can just get over it and just use it as a joke and continue because you delve on it.
Such a good point. It is a really good point because I just saw it as in, well, that's what people understood and you're a product of your environment and that's just education. And out here was very white, was very Anglo. I mean, we're talking years ago. You wouldn't have picked where we are today. But I didn't ever hold it against Camden and I have really fond memories of it because I was still really well respected by my peers. If you look back, there's always the challenges of people you don't like or people but some of my friends from Camden High I'm still playing hockey against or I'm in business with, some people I went to school with.
Me and Ben punched on in high school.
I mean, and I'm pretty sure a lot of those ones called me a wog. Sorry if it's offensive to anyone, but a wog. But it's in the delivery. Like it was offensive for my parents' age group, but for us it was a joke or jovial.
Yeah.
And if you're giving it as well, you got to be expected to take something.
Oh, absolutely. But I also think it's what I mean by what Camden High did for me is that resilience of. Yeah. I'll hopefully we get to talk about when I work in the city because that was the biggest challenge and where I really came up against.
Well, let's go straight into that.
Well, happy to do that. But yeah, I mean, Camden High, when I look back, I thought it was sometimes quite challenging, but I actually thank God I went to Camden High and kept it real and understood that people had opinions about you, even if they were incorrect or just on society.
So let's say when you'd get these sort of racial kids left, right and centre as being an Anglo sort of influenced school, you could sort of go one or two ways. You could go silent, let it beat you down, or you fight up against it. What were you like back in school when you were feeling it?
Well, I was quite sporty, so I feel like I had simulated and people were accepting of it, but they still referred to you as the wonk, if that makes sense. So it's not that I was accepting of it. There was a couple of incidents. I mean, it's the old Camden High that's now levelled down because of they had asbestos in the ground. I went to that Camden High, and it's very challenging now with a lot of my friends who are challenging with cancer and etc. From they believe there, and I know Marsden's are handling that case, but I don't say I was quiet about it, but I don't think I made a big deal of it until certain incidents. There was two incidents. I still remember them like yesterday, and I was in year 10, And we walked into the school. And you know how you have exchange programs? We had a couple of Asian exchange students. They were from Japan. And because people, I say ignorance, I mean, people don't like that word, but we're ignorant. They, you know, go back to your country was graffitied across.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's heavy.
That was one that to me was just, I knew right from wrong, and I thought that's disgraceful and that doesn't represent me. So I was very much I would say that is not something I would want us to, you know, be. I wouldn't want those people to go back and say Camden, he's racist, but, you know. Yeah. And then the other incident was based on a bitchy fight. People used what they would say is your weakness, and back then maybe it was, you know, go home wog or something. They wrote it all over our chairs and all that, and we were really upset by that. Yeah. Funnily enough, I know who did it, and we're still friends today, and he's actually, and that group, they're married to people, Europeans. Yeah. So I laugh.
Look at the irony.
Yeah, irony, that's right. But what I mean, it was not, I don't think it was about being racist. I think it was just trying to pick something that might be a weakness to you back then, not now. Now, you're so proud of your culture.
But it's also that herd mentality as well, right?
That's
like if your friends are doing it, you don't want to be the odd one out.
No, but I mean, the one person I had, and she's still local, she actually went to the States for years. I hope she doesn't mind me talking about her, Carolyn, but she was Filipino, but she was half Filipino. Her mum was Filipino. Her dad was Australian, Anglo-Australian, I should say. She was Australian. They experienced a lot of racism. And remember, I don't know if you remember when Pauline Hanson was in power, and then she came out to Camden, there was a big mob mentality and there was big fighting at the Civic Centre. That was just in the years. Yeah, that was years ago. But that's Camden was still a little bit scared and wanted to be protected, but now if you look at Camden, people embrace it because this is the growth, and they want that different.
Well, I think it's like the most multicultural city.
Yes.
When we did the airport tour, they were talking about it being the most multicultural
city. It will be, and it is. Camden LGA. Like when I say Camden, I don't just mean Camden town, I mean Camden LGA. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. And something to be proud of.
100%.
I love it.
Definitely.
Yes.
But it's fun. Like I think I know where you're kind of going, but with high school, you kind of feel like you finish high school and it stops.
Yes.
But then you work in the city.
Yes. Yes.
And I can tell you it starts again and it is worse. And I'm guessing
sometimes it's ingrained in some people.
They just think everyone from the West is from Bankstown. Yeah. Like, they literally think everyone.
And what's wrong with that? Like, I love Bankstown. They know how to celebrate. No, but it's true. It's not. It doesn't just become a racial issue. It becomes like obviously your financial, socioeconomic. They think a certain way of you, and I really came across that challenge. I mean, I went to uni locally. Went to uni at what's now Western Sydney University. I was one of the first year of law in Western Sydney out at Campbelltown campus. I ended up doing law there, double degree. But I couldn't get a job locally, so I went into the city, and I actually was one of the lucky ones because not many people got offered what they call internships or clerkships now. It was very competitive. Law was very competitive. Still is to a degree, but not like 30 years ago. And I got a clerkship with Clayton Utz. Now, they're a top 5 law firm, national law firm. And back then I thought I had hit jackpot. I thought this is amazing. I can't believe little old me has got this clerkship with Clayton Utz, who's this powerful law firm, and I was so excited. And for the summer, the case that we were working on, there was about 30 of us people who were doing clerkships. We were researching the Rothman case. That's the case where they weren't successful, but where if you look back in the 80s and 90s where all the, Winfield smokes, we had to pull up all the advertisements to show, influence, etc. And there was a big case. And now you can't advertise. That. Yeah. So I was working on that case, one of many, 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 many people. And I got to mix with my colleagues who were from, and look, life has changed. So I am talking 30 years ago, and I don't want anyone to take this out of context, but because today this is probably a little bit prominent in hierarchy, but not like it was 30 years ago, because then there's that male-female thing too as well 30 years ago. Now it's doesn't exist as much in law. So 30 years ago, I'm thinking, this is amazing. I'm from out, west, southwest, and here I've got this clerkship, and they offered me a graduate position, and I was so excited. Even Western Sydney University couldn't believe it. They were like, this is fantastic. There was 5 or 6 of us that got big offers. And I thought it was great. So then I started, and then I started to realise I didn't fit. And the judgment was coming in thick and fast. And this goes back to the Camden High. I got through Camden High and I realised how great it was for me because what I experienced next was horrendous. And no one had migrant parents. I mean, in the environment that I was in, they all had judges or barristers or politicians as parents and came from Sydney Uni or so they would make me feel like the poor cousin. And they would be very open about it. It's not like now we've got the workplace rights. They'd be like, where do you live? And I'd be saying the Oaks. They go, at the pub at Mossman. I'm like, no, out west. That's what they were serious. It was really funny. And I'm thinking, are these people like, and they were serious.
Didn't know people came from that way.
Yeah, but they just said, they were right. It was the north and the east, right? And
a lot of people don't cross the bridge.
Yeah,
that's the story, right? So they said to me, I don't cross the bridge other than I'm coming for work. Yeah. It's not worth my time. There's nothing valuable to me past the Sydney CBD. I thought it was a joke. And then I realised they were being serious. And then they would ostracise you because, you know, you were poor. Well, we were very poor. Well, I was poor or I didn't come from a generational legal background. So I was an imposter. And it really, now you talk about fight, that's where I said this is bullshit and I'm not standing up for this. And then there was the male-female thing. There was a lot of females when I was going through law. I didn't realise it back then, but it was like 23% of law students were female. So when I was working, the hierarchy was all male. So I had that to come across. And I don't want to make it a sexist discussion, but 30 years ago, it was all that. You knew that you had a lot to overcome. Every interview you'd go to, they'd be looking at when are you going to have babies or when you're going to get married or things like that.
Asking the questions that.
Well, they're not even asking. They just they make the assumptions for you. I wish they asked because, you know, they make the assumptions for you and then they sort of deter away from you. So if you've got two equal people, they used to always default to the male.
So you're getting hit from both ends where it's the sexist side, but also the Westie side.
That's right. And I really struggled. I didn't find my cohort. And this is something that I carried through to Coutts. This is something that's really important to me. They didn't have my values. And I didn't realise at the time because all I got caught up in was how amazing was it to work for. And Clayton Utz is nothing like this now. I have a lot of good friends who are partners at Clayton Utz. And if you talk about a whole culture shift, that is the best case. They are amazing. They would cringe at this story that I'm talking about 30 years ago, but that's what it was. They were the example of law back then, but they're definitely not that now. But I was coming across as they didn't have my values. Their values were about where you came from and what you did and what uni you went to, and I didn't value any of that. I valued about hard work. Back to you, my parents, hard work. My dad always used to say to me, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And I've carried that through my whole life.
Culturally, even like Italians, because, you know, my father's Italian, they came to this country to work hard.
That's right.
You know, and they tried to mingle as best they could, but they were always about work ethic.
That's right. That's right. And if you work hard enough, and this is another thing, people think you have to have, like, I'm a lawyer, yes, and it's great. And I was the first one to go to uni in my whole family. I just told my older brother got expelled, but you know, he's a builder now, so it doesn't, you know, you can do anything. That's the whole point. but that's right. But what I'm trying to say is you know, if you put your mind to it, it doesn't matter if you earn $1,000 or $500 or $1 million. It's how you use it and what you do with it and how you give back and who supports you and what you support. Like, these are real values that I had. And back then, the penny dropped that these people weren't in line with what my values were, and I actually quit my graduate position, and I had to pay back money because back then, just to do law, a lot of people, you don't just do a law degree, you got to do College of Law, what they call your PLT, and that cost back then, 30 years ago, $7,500. I had to come up with $7,500 to pay back to get out of the job. Talk about being punished. But then I found another job with Ernst & Young Law. They were Ernst & Young's an accounting firm that were piloting law firms, and they took me in, and all the partners now are at Norton Rose, one of the other big firms, because the partnership didn't work due to the way the law fell. But and I found my home. They were so community focused. They were focused on network and relationships and things like that. So it's about finding your right people and values. But definitely back then, I was copping it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimate the value, the congruency with values being aligned and the company that you're working for.
Yes.
So with the first company you were doing your internship with, how long were you there until you realised that penny dropping moment happened and you were like, okay, you know what? These people aren't for me and I know why. When did that happen?
The clerkship was for the summer. So say 6, 7, 8 weeks. And then I think I was there for 3.5 months. And look, I'll tell you, I probably am cutting out to be this like champion of valleys. It wasn't like that. At first, I actually tried to mold myself to be them.
Yeah.
I've probably skipped over because I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. And you know what? They started to make me feel ashamed of being European background. They started to make me feel ashamed of the Southwest, or what we call now, us Westies. And so I would try to distinguish myself away from everything I was, and trying to, and I wouldn't talk about my family, and I wouldn't talk about where I lived, and I wouldn't talk about my background where, my parents wouldn't have dollars to feed us sometimes, that kind of thing. I would go, that wasn't my life. It was like I was trying to be a different person. But what happened, and your body is the best story, is my body started, like I was just not coping.
Inauthentic.
Yeah, I wasn't being authentic. So if you're people say, oh, I go to networking events, but I really don't like, putting myself out there. They'll do it, and they'll have to do it because they're a business owner and they know what they need to get out of it. But subconsciously, it's really stressing them out. So they go home and they have a headache, and they don't know why they've got the headache, but it's because they're acting outside of their comfort zone. Imagine doing that for 3 months nonstop. Your body starts to break down on you. So that's how I'm being very honest, that's actually how it happened. And I was like, why am I ashamed of this? Why? And they're making me feel like I couldn't be me. So I had to get out. That's how I say, they weren't my values, but I didn't think of it straight away. That wasn't my values. It's all reflection.
Because also at the start, you're just trying to focus on a career and money.
Yeah.
Values, I think, come as soon as you're kind of a little bit more.
And what about in law, when you're telling people I left Clayton Utes, they think you failed.
Yeah.
They think you couldn't get the work done, or you weren't prepared to do the big hours. Like, it was a mindset to get out of that was really hard. It wasn't just about that.
Were you thinking to pivot out of law altogether, or
I think that's why I went to an accounting firm. I did a commerce law degree and I majored in accounting as well. Yeah. So I was never going to be a lawyer. I was going to actually I was going to be a hairdresser. I really wanted to be a hairdresser. And my dad was very supportive of me being a hairdresser, and I wasn't going to go back into year 11, year 12. And then one of my teachers saw my dad and said, where's your daughter? Like, she's in our top 5 students. And he's like, oh, she wants to be a hairdresser. And they're like, no, bring her back. She could go to uni. He's like, really? Do you think? Remember in migrant, like, it's a big deal. Yeah. Do you really think she could go to uni? Yeah. And Dad's like, I think you should go back to school and try to get to uni. I'm like, great. And I thought I'd be an accountant because I did 4 unit. Maths just comes easy to me. So, I was never out to be a lawyer, but yeah, oh, wow. So I got the marks.
Okay. So what was it that attracted you to law?
Well, I liked the law, and then I did work experience. I was telling you boys before, I did work experience with Marsden's after that, and thought, I could do law, and then I did work experience in an accounting firm. I could do that as well. I still was very
Jim Marsden.
Yeah, we did Marsden. No, but it was under the late Ken Searle, who was a very, very well-known lawyer in the Camden area. I mean, and that week was fantastic. So I feel like he had a bit of an influence of my change of thought. I just liked that he was very much in the community. Camden knew him. He was very helpful. I love the way he interacted with clients. I love that he was helping. That help. I'm a fixer. So I think that talked to my head. So that's probably where I changed my direction. Yeah.
And any reason you didn't continue on at Masters?
You're trying to get something out of me. Sorry, Jim. Well, the story's going to come out.
It has to come out.
No, but so probably why I went to Clayton Utes, or why I went into the city. We couldn't get jobs out here. Marsden's was the key. Like, it was Marsden's. There was a couple of other old firms, but they were small. And Marsden's, it was very competitive to get a job there. Actually, it was me and a friend of mine. We're still good friends. He owns a firm. He actually owns a very successful firm, Williams Roberts, in the city. He got the job over me. So maybe they did make the right decision, because he's got a very successful firm. And look, there's only so many positions, but it was Grant Butterfield, the late Grant. Maybe
it's a great story.
Maybe I'm the Grim Reaper, but yeah, the late Grant Butterfield, he chose Robert over me. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So where did Coutts all start?
Oh yeah. So it's not as an empowering female story as everyone thinks. I think I fell into that, but
sometimes those stories are
I know. So I obviously worked
reality.
in the city. Yeah, that's right. You fall into. Well, I was working in the city. My husband was working in the city. We were dating back then, and he got his job moved out to Southern Highlands. So we were out here. We were living in Camden, and we got married, and I was working in the city. Loved my job. Like, it's an understatement. I absolutely loved my job I was in house counsel for Wizard, and I was having the time of my life. I loved the people, loved what they stood for, et cetera, et cetera. And then I fell pregnant. And it's a funny story because Sienna, she's 18 now, but I wasn't planning on kids. I know I was married, but my career was my main focus. My husband knew that. Everybody in my world knew that. So when I fell pregnant, it was it's a devastating day. I say that with all this.
That's not the word I was expecting.
No, I have to tell you, I have to.
Well, as long as your daughter knows.
No, both my children know. I love my friends where they say to my girls, she doesn't mean that. They go, yes, she does. But what I mean by that, I was so focused on my career. Yeah. And I've got to say this again. I actually hid my pregnancy for 5.5 months.
Yeah.
I was scared of losing my job, and because I loved my job. And so I cried for a week.
Wow.
And my husband wasn't allowed to celebrate our pregnancy to anyone because I was so devastated. And we didn't tell people because I was so devastated.
Well, your KPIs
about my
don't
career.
stop.
Yeah, no, that's right. But obviously, reality says, you do life for the right reasons, and I wouldn't change it for a world. My girls are meant to be here, obviously, to torture me. But the girl.
Well, look, how could you have played netball with them now?
Hockey. I hate netball. Don't mention netball.
Far out. Bulldogs were the first thing in netball.
You've done your wrong research. No, let's not talk about Bulldogs either. But no, so how did Coutts happen that's the story because it is around Sienna. I fell pregnant with Sienna, and at the same time I fell pregnant with Sienna, I was working for Wizard Home Loans. They were selling to GE, the big international company GE. And I knew things were going to change then anyway. So the settlement happened. I was about 6-7 months pregnant. And then I went on maternity leave. I was bored shitless on maternity leave. I'm not a very good maternal person. So I went back to work after 10 weeks, back to GE. And I didn't like what they stood for. They're very different
you would have been back after the merger.
Yeah, the merger. And then they basically said to me, our legal counsel is all in Melbourne, so we would want you to move. They wanted to keep me, but wanted me to move to Melbourne. I was like, well, I'm not moving to Melbourne. I have a young family. I'm about to have I had a young family. I had Sienna. And then a lot of the owners of Wizard, except for Mark, when they sold out, left. So they said to me on the side, why don't you do work for us, but we don't have enough for a full time. And I said, yeah, actually I might do that. So I left Wizard, which was GE, and then I started to do contract work. And then Michelle Coutts had a conveyancing business, a one-man band in Somerset Avenue, Narellan, and she was having personal problems. I don't know Michelle Coutts. We had a mutual friend and they introduced us, and she said, you can come and help me out. Do you want to buy the business? And so I went to help her out, and I had my daughter at home. I think she was about 5-6 months then. That's why Coutts is 17 years old. And I started to work, and she had a break because she had that personal issue. Her sister passed away, and there was a couple of other things. And then she sold the business to me and said, if you want it, keep it. So I had myself, and I was doing all my contract work through there, insurance, licensing, etc.
I did not know this.
This is cool.
I did. Yeah. I totally thought that.
Oh, you thought it was a plan?
I thought.
Coutts was not a plan. No,
I thought it was another name.
No, I know. Everyone loves why Coutts, but it's actually Michelle Coutts' name. Ironically, Coutts was her married name, and then her first husband, because she got remarried later on in life, and she's still around. She's down the South Coast, but her husband, her late husband, he became a client years later. That's another funny story. It is it's like all that. But anyway,
how the circle goes.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? He came and he goes, this firm is mine because it's my name. And I'm like, holy shit! I should have actually looked more into that.
Did you ever think about?
Can you help me sue you? Can you help me sue you?
Trademark. Did you ever think about rebranding?
Yes, I did. Yeah. That was one of the things I was getting to. Yeah. 17 years later, I'm still getting to it.
Still getting to it.
No, I'm not going to rebrand.
Exclusive on the show.
No rebranding. Okay, but no, I was getting to it. That's really? My answer. Okay. So if I can really early. So if I can tell you the truth, I went into Coutts really half-assed. I wasn't interested. I actually had in my head that Sienna would get a little bit older, and I was back in the city. So when I used to work in the city, I didn't work 9 to 5, and that's no criticism. Today's world is beautiful for someone who wants a career and have it all. But, I was going in at 6 and coming home my husband used to pick me up at 2 o'clock just to have a drive home so we could talk and things like that. So as a lawyer back then, to be successful, as they call it now, you had to do the hours. I needed to be more accessible. I had to face reality. I was still a young mum and things like that. So I went into Coutts half-assed thinking I'll just do this for a couple of years and then I'm going back into the city because I've got this great,
So it's more like a side hustle.
It was.
Just to keep some income.
So I could do the work for the other directors of Wizard because they had a couple of their own businesses. They all went into finance in other ways. So I did that and then I hired 1-2 people, but I only ever had 2 employees. So Coutts is 17 years old, but my daughter Michaela is just turned 15 2 weeks ago. And that's when things changed for me. I was 4 years into the business. I only had 1 licensed conveyancer. And I had a receptionist. I think she might have been part-time back then, so not a lot of employees. And I was pregnant with Michaela. That's another story where I cried for a while too. It's such a joy. Such a joy.
Are you sure?
Yes, especially when they answer me back. They're such a joy and they cost me a lot of money. But no, in seriousness, I was pregnant with Michaela. And then the month she was due in August and my licensed conveyancer resigned. And I was like, holy shit. And under our licensing, someone has to run this business. Now, you got to remember back then there was no the way the internet worked, or we all had servers where everything went back to the server. I know this sounds funny because this is only 15 years ago. So we had the internet, but we didn't everything got saved in the server. So you had to work physically in your office or bring your server home, which is So that's why I have to explain that because I think people go, well, "What's the big deal?" No, it was a big deal.
There's no Wi-Fi, nothing like that. You just
got worse. So she resigned and she finished up. And then the week before she finished up, I remember this like yesterday, and I don't begrudge her that everyone's got to live their life, but it was the worst timing for me. And Michaela was actually due at the end of August, and I went in to see your obstetrician in Liverpool. I picked him because he would see me late at night because I didn't want to interfere with my job. So make sure he see me at 8 o'clock at night at Liverpool. So I picked him anyway. So I'd go and see him, and it was Tuesday night, and he said, "Your body's shutting down. It's not coping. You're going into hospital tonight." I said, no. I said, I've got a business to run. She's due on the 27th or whatever it was. I'm not having her on the 5th. And he said that. And he said, you've got no choice.
I'm working till the 25th.
Yeah, I said that all the morning of the 26th. And my husband's like, oh, shit. He's like, this isn't going to go down well. So pretty much my husband went home and got the bag and sorted out Sienna with my parents, and I stayed in hospital and I had her. And all I kept thinking was, oh, shit, my business. Yeah. I still got phone calls. I still worked in that 4 days. And so I had her on the Tuesday. I remember it. Friday morning I was in Coutts. Wow. I had to. I had no choice. It's not like today. And I don't begrudge it. I was very conscious of the decision I made, but I had to make a decision that next couple of weeks about how I was going to handle this. You're going to remember I would never advise any female to do this because having – a baby is very traumatic to your body. People don't. You would understand all that, yeah. And mentally as well. You're malnourished and things like that. Like you don't understand. Yeah, that's right. So, I went back in and I was upset, but I was also of the mindset, get the job done. You got to do what you got to do. I really thought, what am I going to do with this business? And I thought I might close Coutts. And I might just go back to, working in the city or something like that because I was like, this is not right. And then thank God by the way, my kids we make jokes, but people value too much about, what your family miss out on. They don't miss out as long as you have the right people around you, the right, circle. Yeah. My parents helped bring up my girls. They had a roof over their head. They were fed. My husband's the same. He was very hands-on. It's just how you choose to run your life, right? Right? So I just need to say that. I mean, we make jokes, but in seriousness, that's how my life ran. But I had to make a decision about Coutts and thought, I don't want this business to run me, but if I keep it like the way it is, it's going to run me. And so it was about that Christmas. So August, that Christmas, I did a business plan and this is where it is planned. So I'm 4 years into the business. So this is 13 years ago. And I said, I can't have a business where I'm the slave to the business. I'm going to either grow this business or close it. Had conversations with and this is another thing I value that people, I always say, have the right mentors, have the right people. You don't have to have them forever, but pick that right circle and they come in and out of your life. And I'll tell you right now, if you say, why has Coutts successful other than me and what my strategy and hard work was, it's the people that I had around me. I had such a good team always behind me, always got the right advice or pulled advice from people, old bosses, accountants, financial planners, like anyone, someone who's been there, done that, other law firms, you do get that mentorship. So in and out of your life, they don't have to be there forever.
Because I feel like when I look at mentors in my life, I try to create a hybrid version of the best versions of
Yes,
them.
100%.
Because I can't look at anyone in particular and say that's the person that led me to where I am.
But it's also in different stages of your life.
Yeah.
Who I had back then won't be good for me now. That you've got to be aware of that, and you've also got to make difficult calls as well, because people tend to hold on to people.
Because you're the golden child, right? You're the golden child, and they will give you that mentorship. That the people that have turned on me have been my biggest mentors at the time that I told them I was leaving, and some of them have said horrible stuff to me that I thought I could never speak to them again. And mind you, it's taken 5-10 years. I've reached out to one the other week and on LinkedIn, and I was like, and it was just like everything for the past 10 years of not talking was forgotten about.
Yeah. Can I say this? I think when I was younger, I wanted to fight everyone and give everyone my opinion and tell them why they were wrong or why they were right or why I'm their advocate. I was so passionate about that. Now, as I've matured, I think having an educated way to approach people and appreciating people come from a different spot. And sometimes what they say might be harsh or cruel or something that you don't agree with. But you've also, I think, I start to try to understand the person now. I didn't in my 20s.
Yep.
In my 20s, I thought, stuff you. Yeah. You're ignorant. You're this. Now I sit there, and probably the way I talk about the people at Clayton News, I probably would have been quite brutal 15 years ago. And whilst it still holds a mark in my career, I see it as a positive as well, because it got to me where I was. But I also look at why rather than just saying, assumptions about people. And I think that's a maturity thing in what you just said then, right?
But also, I think that is our Westie side.
Oh, yeah, we're fighters.
That is what we're
Let's be honest, we're fighters.
Because I think when you go to the city, you kind of also come back, and then you still kind of feel like, are people judging you like that for a little bit?
Oh, I really begrudge how we treated in the Southwest. I'm very passionate about 100%. That. Probably leads to other things that I started to do as well.
But that's changing all now.
Yes, it is. And we're the golden child of the state, aren't we? But it wasn't like that.
We're making fun of the North Shore people coming out here, right?
I'm happy to make fun of the North Shore. It's funny. It's funny because in hockey, my girls, we play comps and we play against, and if the NSB girls are listening to this, they're going to be cringing. They're some of my closest friends, I should say that. I love their daughters and I love them. But every time it comes to a financial thing, I'm like, oh, no, you guys have to change uniforms because you're from the North Shore and you've got money to go and buy second uniforms. We're the battlers. Yeah. And they're looking at me going, you're not. I'm like, yes, we're the battlers. So I use it to your advantage. And that's something I've always done is I've always used what people perceived as your weakness is I throw that back in their face. Yep, I love it. I love doing it. So, Coutts. So I made a conscious choice to grow Coutts. And you fast forward 13 years and we are where we are.
It's incredible. Coutts multi-award winning in so many different sectors. And you are so active in the networking space.
Yes.
Like, Adriana, you're everywhere.
That's lovely.
Not just because of the buses.
I know. Oh, the buses I hated those buses. If Hayley's listening, who was one of my marketing managers, put that to me and I said no for a year and a half. I hate looking at yourself on the bus, and there was not many people doing it, so it was very prominent. It was one of the most successful things we've ever done. Really? Hence why we're still on there. Yeah. Do you know people say, oh, Adriana, you've got buses everywhere. We've got 2 buses.
Oh, really?
2.
Well, you took over those buses. You can't really unsee it. You can't unsee it.
But that's what I'm saying. We've got 2 buses and everyone says to me, oh, you've got so many buses. And it's the best way to pick up your kids. They can't whinge. I'm on the bus. Get on the bus. I'm picking you up, baby. Well, I'm still working. Anyway, no, that's a funny. So, networking. Yes.
But the chamber.
Yeah.
Big part of the chamber,
yes.
Right? And taking it to a whole nother level.
100%. Yeah. So, another thing I've always been told is you can either be part of the problem or be part of the solution, right? So, the other thing I probably didn't talk about with Coutts is why I was a little bit, I had to put my toe in the water sort of thing. When I came out here, it was a little bit taboo. Coutts, no one really liked Coutts because every law firm, and I've got great relationships with all of them. I heard Jim say that multiple times. We are all good, actually. We actually, when it comes to community, you want the best advocates, get the financial group and the legal group in this Macarthur area, and we are all aligned. We are so aligned. It's actually beautiful.
It's actually nice to hear.
But it wasn't like that always in the sense because it was old school. So I came out and had Coutts, female. There was no female-only firms. There was conveyancing firms. There was about 2 or 3 conveyancing firms like Jacinta and all that. No law firms with just female running it. And I think Marsden's had 1 female partner back then and other law firms had none. So I remember my first, like you have your law society little meetings. I was one of 3 females in the room, and I was by firms that no longer exist, were told that they were going to run me out of town because they said you don't belong here. And it wasn't like Sydney. Sydney, we were all quite, cliquey and we all knew each other. The legal fraternity was quite small. And I was like, what have I walked into? I'm from this area. So when we talk about networking, not everyone was welcoming. And the world evolved, thankfully. But I have to say sometimes I was a bit too early to the table, so I wasn't welcomed. But I was talking about law firms, just something as simple as changing the colours to purple. Oh, the jokes, the purple palace. Purple means something else, not law. And I don't want to say that on camera.
I think we know.
But we all know where we're going. Yes.
Also being a female.
No,
with
I
that
copped
colour.
and so everyone was either maroon or blue. Maroon, blue. If you're not maroon and blue and you're not serious about law, and I was really advocate on, I want it to be me and I want it to be authentic and I want it to be purple and I wanted people to feel welcomed. And when you walked into Coutts back then, I mean, we've changed our look quite a few times. We've evolved. You look like you're coming into a spa, a salon, And I said, because that's what I like. And if I like that feeling and if I feel relaxed and, what do a lot of people do with their hairdressers? Talk, 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 talk. What do they do with their beauty? Talk, 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 talk. So I thought, well, that's what people are coming in here. You want them to be relaxed. Yeah. So I changed the look and I got criticised for years. But now that's what you do. You want people to come in and have that really. So that's what I'm saying about sometimes being a little bit too early. So you criticise and you're torn down and it questions you. But
we just stole your logo and we just put the seed, just got the colours.
Yeah, I love it. It's such a movement. It's such a movement, isn't it? Yeah, the Coutts, yeah. So I'm still going to change that name. No, I'm just joking. Coutts, to me, it's not the name. It's what you build the name to mean to people.
Yeah.
That's why I never changed it. After a year, I was like, does it really matter? I'm not egotistical. I don't need to be me. But I just wanted
Were you thinking to make it your name?
Or, typical...
Because Care can go with anything.
Yeah, can go with anything.
Yeah, I just feel like that's the best name.
Yeah,
that's what everyone says. You're so silly. It should have been Care. Yeah, but to me back then, law firms were built on names, the partners and the, but that's another new thing. I was like, I don't value what the actual name says. I value what the name stands for. Right. So I kept it because I had already built the brand behind it.
Yeah, I love that. So were you on a mission to build an all-female firm? Like, was that?
Yes. Okay. So it wasn't that. I love that. I mean,
everyone's assumption is that as soon
of course it is. Of course it is. It is because.
And I thought you were lying, even though I heard it wasn't.
No, but I'll tell you right now, it's what I said before. People pulled it as a weakness, so I used the weakness and thought, well, I'm going to promote it now. Now that you think that, well, then I'm going to promote that. Yeah. And it actually worked in our favour, and it worked in our favour in a big time. So people were critical of that female sort of presence, but it took me a couple of years to get comfortable with it and promote it because I didn't know what I didn't know, but I couldn't build. When I started to actively want to build, to attract good lawyers out here was really challenging, even though because people have the perception if you want good work, and I'm pretty sure Jim said this as well, but if you want good work or you want, as a lawyer, if you want to do good work, or if you want the best lawyers, you go to Sydney.
Yeah, yes, you did.
So that perception to get people to work out here, they'd rather travel 2.5 hours in the city and work for a firm where they think they're going to get that. So the market was very challenging for me to get that level of caliber to then get the good work. So chicken and egg, right? But what I forgot was why did I start working at Coutts? And the penny dropped was like because I'm a young mum and I need to be close in case something happens to my kids, and I need to be available, accessible, and I also didn't want to travel. And so that's when I started to market to females who had children and they wanted to get back in the workforce but not, do their extra hours and be accessible to their children. I started to market employment that way, not the legal services. And I started to get these 10-year plus female lawyers coming to work for Coutts, and then I could get the good work because I had the technical. You need the technical to get the work. You can't just promote and say, I'll do it all. And then people used to start at Coutts, oh, you know, you're a man hater. My poor husband, things he's gone through. I'm definitely not a man hater. I've stayed with him, but no, but I'm saying he copped it more than me, I think. But she's a man hater. She only hires females, but it wasn't. It was because back to values and knowing what you stand for and what you offer. Like attracts like.
Agree.
And that's what's happened.
Are you all female now?
No, we have 4 males.
I think
Out of 55.
the first Christmas party that I ever went
Christmas
to
parties, yeah.
was the Coutts Christmas party when I first started my business in the area.
You feel like you made
And
it? Did you feel like you made it?
Well, for me, it was like the first one I got invited to, and Adriana was.
Keisha invited you?
Yeah.
Well, Keisha is probably I still deal with her for 8 years now, and she's my clients love her.
Yeah, she's lovely.
She does all the estate planning. But there's actually an interesting story about how Keisha was hired. Because I love that story.
Oh, the pub story.
Yeah, the shots.
Yeah, the shots.
The purple.
One of the. Well, she's very clever, isn't she? She says it was an accident, but I wonder.
She was a bartender.
Yeah, she was no, that's okay. You can. Yeah, she was a bartender at Camden Hotel.
Oh.
And one of the girls in my office got divorced, and the girls went out to celebrate divorce party, and she saw that the girls were having you could see the emotion wasn't all very cheery, and Keisha was behind the bar. She was had just finished law and she couldn't get a job because it's harder to get a job with no experience, obviously. So, and she couldn't get a job, and then she closed up. I think she finished her shift early, so she thought she'd shout these girls that were having a bad time, purple shots. I know. She reckons it was a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
And then they told her why don't you sit down with us? Thank you so much, and they got chatting and they did shots on shots. And then they're like, she's like, I'm a wannabe lawyer, basically. I can't get a oh, well, our boss Adriana will hire you. They pretty much did the interview that night. But then she also was working for Andrew Valkukis, who's a real estate agent in the area now, but he was running the pub, and I went to school with him. So he gave her a good shout. And, you hire, those are the best hires.
And what's Keisha?
And guess what? She's still one of my longest term standing. Like I said, 13 years ago, I was looking to grow. She just celebrated 10 years.
I love that.
Well done.
Yeah.
She's a legend.
Yeah, she is a legend, but I have a very good core. She's one of that good core that I couldn't have done Coutts without.
Maybe it was the
so
shots
humbled
talking,
by
but it worked out.
Yeah, look, we were a bit of a party firm too. We are. So, you got to, what is it? Work hard, play hard.
Well,
Enjoy what you do.
That also goes into another realm because now, I guess, even seeing where Coutts is going, you've now, brought on some new other directors as well. Or
I've got 2 partners, Karina and Lou. And Lou's come through the ranks and Karina came externally. What I mean by that is Lou was a junior lawyer and worked through and has just become equity partner, and Karina was 4 years ago. She is a Camden girl, and I think that's really important that you have that same values and same what you want to do. But she worked in a law firm in Wollongong for 14 years. So that's why we've got that Wollongong interest as well, because she has a great career down there as well.
Can I ask why you bring them in?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think you either got to decide what you stand for and what you're going to do. But I'm not just about law, but I'm also about opportunities. And I want people who work for Coutts to have that availability, that opportunity to work through, but also have succession. I don't want to be stuck with a law firm. And I say this with respect, but there's a lot of sole practitioner law firms out there that are pretty much going to retire and not be able to offload their firm. And I think that's a real shame for all what they've done for the community, what they've done for their clients. I didn't want a firm that was stuck to me. Obviously, I have a big brand to Coutts, but the team that I've got are amazing. And that was a real plan as well. It wasn't just about me exiting, but that succession of Coutts is more than just Adriana.
It's a bigger thing. I guess it's a person's way of giving back to the people that really deserve.
Yes, absolutely.
That really work
there's a path. That's if you want it. Not everyone wants that either.
Yeah,
they just want security as well, or a good job and good support and mentor. So it just depends. Everyone plays different roles in the business, but definitely was something I decided when I said 13 years ago, when I said I was going to make a plan, that included bringing on partners, owners, different levels in Coutts to reward those who are going to be loyal to me.
And did you say at a certain point that was going to happen when you hit this amount of revenue or when you hit this many employees or?
No, so the business plan went based on bums on seats and revenue. Yeah. But also how and what areas. I think there was 3 levels to that strategy. There's a lot of information underneath it, but it was people, which is very important to businesses, people. It's the hardest thing. It's the best thing. Obviously, that will produce a certain amount of revenue. If you've got to be profitable. Yeah. It's not a job. It's if you're going to get a salary, go and get a job. Don't cause yourself that distress. It's so hard to run a business these days. I don't know if I would have done it now. Yeah. It's becoming even harder. You're everything to everyone. I think before when I started 17 years ago, I just had to make sure my staff turned up and they did a really good job. Now you've got to make sure that they turn up, do a good job, but you also got to take care of them and you've got to make sure their environment's good. Because
the list goes on.
If they're not, yes, it does. Yeah. And now we've got even more.
Well, I guess for you, maternity leave is a big issue.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. I had seven off at the same time last year. Talk about sustainability in business. Yeah. But guess what happened to me? I actually took maternity leave I couldn't, but that was what was happening to Coutts. You got to be sustainable. Thank God. When those 7 did take maternity leave, we were at a healthy level to be able to sustain it. Can't sustain it forever. Yeah. But these are things that, the world, you've got to be prepared for. So back to the growth, that's another reason. You've got females, etc. But, males take, paternity leave as well. It's not that. But I'm just saying you've got to be sustained, you've got to be profitable, you've got to be able to give back, you've got to be able to celebrate. Yes, but we're very blessed and supported by the community. It's a privilege, but it's also a duty that we have back to the community. Like I grew up in a very, very poor environment, and my parents were battlers and they're self-made now. And I'm so proud of my parents coming from nothing, and I mean nothing, that how good they've done. But we struggled as kids. We struggled as a young family. So I know how it is to be poor. I remember having hand-me-downs, and when you have brothers, it ain't pretty. But probably why I love all the good stuff now. But what I'm trying to say is, you say, well, I'm so blessed to be in the position I am. It's my duty to give back to the community. So, there's a lot of arms to Coutts. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not just the law. Yeah.
Adriana, I'm hearing all this stuff and doing the research on you and your achievements and the awards and the recognition and what you've created with 2 teenagers and a husband and other businesses and other developments and the list goes on and this and that and whatever. There's a lot of ambitious character inside of you. There's a lot of drive inside of you. And it feels to me, I'm sitting here listening about all this stuff and I feel exhausted. I feel like I'm a bit of a driven, ambitious sort of character. But then I think to myself, this is crazy. Well done to you, first of all. But how do you keep up with it? Like, how many coffees do you have a day?
Oh, I love coffee, but I never finish it. I have too many.
That's like my missus. That's like my missus. That's my missus.
And I drink cold coffee because I never finish it. Everyone hates it in my office. They think it's disgusting. No, I won't. I drink cold coffee. No.
Everyone thinks I'm disgusting.
Everyone thinks I'm disgusting.
I drink cold coffee as well because it just sits there.
So much. I just drink it and it's disgusting. My girl's like, can't blame you down. I'm like, well, I love coffee. I love coffee.
It's funny you said that. Me and my wife fight about this.
I love your wife. So yeah.
Coffee,
we never finish. I never finish a coffee ever. I don't. If I finish a coffee, it must mean I'm sitting there for 2 hours or 3 hours straight, as in I'm there at the desk.
How do you do it?
How do I do it? I get asked this all the time, and
do you have any?
I just do it, but
routine or anything?
No. Well, I do. That's a lie. I'll talk about my routine. It's about everything I do because I have a personal ambition or interest in it. People sometimes do things because they think, oh, that's what people expect of me. That's not what I do. Everything I've said yes to, it's because I genuinely have a passion for it or an interest in it. The reason why I'm harping on this point is because it makes it easier. Networking. I didn't network to get business. I was one of many, many reasons why. I was a new business owner. I had no connections other than my old Ken and High mates 10 years before, maybe even 12 years before. Knew no one anymore because I had a world in the city. Like my life was in the city. I had to reconnect. I wanted people to give me advice on how they were doing their business. I wanted to make friends in business that had the same challenge, like you said, have young kids and things like that. So I picked groups that I felt, comfortable with. Like one of my networking groups, I met, it's Michaela's godparents. I came from that networking group. Pretty much what you boys are doing. You've connected, you've got in similar stages of your life. and they became Michaela's. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you network for a minute, but everything I do, back to what you say in the list, I do because I have a personal interest. So it doesn't feel like, not always, sometimes it's a challenge. Some of my biggest challenges are not Coutts, but it's something I have an interest in. So all the boards I've sat on, I loved it. I couldn't fault it. And you know how much I learnt? You're sitting at a board, like when I was on law cover for New South Wales, which I just finished up last year, I was sitting on the board with people who were board members of CBA and big firms like that. And I'm not trying to say a big note them, but their experience and what they saw in other firms that they were bringing to me just to be part of the conversation, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of the information. It was free. And you didn't have to take the advice, but I was like, I love learning as well. But everything like hockey New South Wales, obviously hockey is a big passion. I've played hockey a lot of my life. It's one of my biggest challenges. I'm almost at the end of my current tenure of my last directorship. I'm president as well. And passionate families and kids and sport. You want to hear a challenge? Be in sport. It's really challenging.
President of a number of organisations, plus director of. Like, how do you juggle it all?
Yeah. So routine. So you asked me about my routine. So my routine, I used to be a little bit more intense. I think I'm slowing down a little bit, but I get up early, and I always go through my to-do list either late at night or first thing in the morning. I set up my day. I set up my list. I know what's due when. Sunday nights, doesn't matter if we go out, if we're out, when I get home, I go through that. If I don't do that, I have the worst week. I always do that, so I build that in. I build in my personal time into it. I build task lists. And if you look at my task list, I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I haven't molded this to technical, even though I hate paper. That's another thing you'll hear in Coutts. If people print, I hate paper. But I have columns of each business, of what I'm doing. Yeah. And Coutts obviously is the longest because that's the one I'm actively working, not just, empowering. So I'll have a list of what's got to be done, dates, times, due dates. I also mentor people. Sorry? Do
you have an EA yourself?
I have assistants. I don't have an EA. Yeah, no.
Okay, so you don't have
I'm very hands-on, yeah. I have assistants though, yeah.
You sound perfectly structured on stay on top of your things that you have to do for different organisations. Yes. I want to hear more about that. That's really cool.
Yes.
How long were you like that for?
I've always told all my staff, if you don't have a list and you don't have prepare first thing in the morning, you're constantly chasing your tail. I've been like that since the day I remember. It's probably since I was studying at uni. When I was at uni, I worked 2 jobs because, financially I had to get myself through uni. So I had to fit in full-time double degree between working at Coles on the week and Camden Coles. I loved it. Talk about customer service. That's where you learnt it. That's where I learned how to talk to people too. But Camden Coles, it is.
Big W for me.
I'm telling you.
You're just nicer to people.
And the managers, what they taught me and how to, I can't fault it. I always tell everyone about that. But working 2 jobs, I had to squeeze in assignments and studying. And law is an extensive degree, whereas a lot of reading. So, I learnt then, and I've never changed ever as a person. And when you talk about sitting on boards, board papers are 400-500 papers, like 400 pages. Sorry, I couldn't get that out. They're not just an agenda. Yeah. So, and then when you're a president, I'm spending about 40 to 60 hours a month on Hockey New South Wales alone. And it's not a chore, but you got to do it right as well. This volunteer, I'm a volunteer. Yeah, you might be a volunteer. Well, some of my roles are paid, but you're not a volunteer, but you still have all the risk and liabilities around. I think my legal background as well has probably sparked me to be quite diligent because I know the risks and liabilities behind sitting behind. So you don't say yes to something and then say, I can half-ass do it.
You don't offload it
because the responsibility doesn't stop. Just because you're a volunteer or you're paid, you're liable, and you're liable.
Do you say no to things?
Yes, all the time. You wouldn't think that with what you read. All the time.
You would have to at that point.
All the time. I get asked so many things. So if I've stepped off quite a few boards in the last couple of years and I say I won't bring on something else without taking something off now. Yeah. And I owe that to my family as well because my family been very supportive of me being quite active. They don't know any different. That's how, my husband, if he sees me at home, he's like, he goes, shit, she might be bored. She's going to ask me something or make me do something. No. He actually says that. He goes, I'm a bored person. I'm not a happy person. So it's just my mind, the way I
And when you have ideas for, say, the next stage or the next business venture or what you do Do you
I
sit
love
down
that.
with-
I love that time. Don't you love it when you come
Yeah.
across something and go, I really want to do that?
So for me, it's like
It's so
scary,
exciting.
but I need it because
Yeah.
if I don't feel scared, I get complacent.
Yeah.
And if I get complacent, I get lazy. So I always
Yeah.
need to feel like my business
I'm like you,
is
yeah.
going to fail like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because if you're not searching for that next goal, it's just easy to become like that.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. Like I don't rest on Coutts being where it is today. We still got challenges. They're just new challenges because the world evolves. But we do planning days. We meet. We have regular board like partner meetings. Like we're very structured in that way because life gets busy. But if you have that touch point. You build that rapport. Anything. We're not always in agreement. That's just bullshit. Anyone tells you like, and you don't want to be because you want to challenge. I want them to challenge me. That's another reason why I brought on partners. Was one of the questions. I want the next wave of ambition and thoughts. You know, you talk about technology and AI and things like that coming through Coutts as well. You know, our best ideas are from our juniors, not from us. So you're engaging constantly all the time, but you've got to be structured. Otherwise you miss it. You miss it and you just keep working and you keep working and you keep working and you go, shit, I haven't done anything. Like, haven't done anything to grow. So, you know, they say work on your business, not in your business.
Yeah.
God, that's hard. I used to get the shits when people used to say that to me. I'm like, well, where do you think the money's going to come from? Who's going to put that advice out for the clients? Who's going to settle that? You've just got to find the right times and the balance, and it's hard.
And you got to be
telling you,
consistent and have
it's harder now as a 47-year-old than it was in my. I think higher expectations makes it harder. But I'm just answering. You know, just got to be structured. For me, that's what works for me.
Do you have like your all-time favorite case? I don't know. But do you have that one?
No, I'm not a litigating. I'm a commercial property lawyer, but I have quite a few cases over the years. But you know, one of
anything that's left the mark.
Oh no, but you know, one of my first cases was the Costa Zoo case. That's why I'm raising it because of you. He sacked his manager. This is when he was at his peak. Obviously, he's overseas now. And his boys are doing really well. His boys.
Chanel on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, his boy. That's right. His boys were 4-2, man. And you knew back then they were going to be boxers. They're balanced, and they used to come into the office, and I used to entertain them as his little junior lawyer. But his manager, Bill Morty, was suing him because he went to a Russian manager. And that was a huge case. And out of that, I got to be ringside watching some of his boxing matches. So I wouldn't say it's a favourite case, but back then when I started law, you do a lot of different areas of law. Now I settled in commercial, but I don't hardly in court unless it's a big, big dispute. But I've got a team that does that now, and they do it better than me. So that's why they do it, not me.
Did you get the phone call from Costa and say, "Hey, Adriana"? No,
yeah, I think Costa was, and now Nikki, his wife, who's still here. She was beautiful. She could hardly speak English back then. I mean, she's obviously advanced quite a bit since then. And she actually, I find it ironic that he's back in Russia and she's still here with her sons because she back then wanted to go back to Russia. So isn't it funny how things evolve? Wow. Yeah. But he was beautiful family. Just that was just a big Supreme Court matter. I learned a lot of technical. So I wouldn't say favourite. I mean, there's other gossipy like cases we've got that I've come across.
Those ones.
No, I meant as in they're just, things you like to, but that to me, like that was really, as a 22-year-old, come on, like that's really exciting, And then I worked on the Rothmans case, which, that I said, but there's big cases that I got exposed to in the city, but nothing like, I don't have a favourite. No, I think my favourite thing is when I see a new business evolve and I do all their agreements and I get to sit on their board and advise them, and I love that you can see they're onto something big and you think, how amazing, I can't wait. And there's been, businesses, can't really disclose it, but businesses that you go, wow, that's going to be a big business. Yeah, wow. That to me is exciting.
Yeah. You get to see them start up and then.
Correct. Okay. And that's another thing. When I started Coutts, like you had your established law firms and they had the established businesses. But the one thing I did with Coutts is I didn't target the established big businesses in the area. Every law firm has been successful because they've aligned themselves to where they're at. I was a new business. I aligned myself to new businesses. Like Wisdom Homes was, building 10 houses when I first started with them. And then they ended up, doing 500 houses a year. They were my client, but I started with them and they grew, we grew. That's what I'm saying. Like that was another strategy. I thought, well, like attracts like. I keep saying that because it's so true. And if you're not, then you're sort of out of your comfort zone and it starts to fail on you, but you sort of grow together. Yeah.
What was Mark Boris like to work for?
Oh, so back to Wizard.
Holding on to that.
I know. I was curious about it, and then it just came up again. I thought I would just.
What's your favourite colour?
Do you know what's my favourite colour? Purple. Black, obviously. So that's a story, isn't it? He's such an amazing look. The media love him, and he went through a purple patch, and him and John Simons went through a stage where they were changing the finance industry, so that they had their traction as well. But I got this job. I didn't even know who Mark Boris was when I got the job. I'm going to be really honest. It was my late stepmother-in-law said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're working for Mark. He's such a hottie." And I mean, what's in his 60s now, but back then, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, he's okay." And then I started looking him up, going, "Holy crap, he's got a big profile." So, what's he like to work for? He's intense. So his media profile is, and I think he's become this now as well. Look, friendly, approachable, does all the good things. But he had high expectations and he was ruthless inside. And again, I have to say this, it's a different time to today. You couldn't do what we did back in Wizard then, even half the things I could share then. It exposed me to a different world.
Well, there's no social media. There's none of that stuff.
Social media was becoming very new as I was exiting out. So Mark was intense and had high expectations, and he's very intelligent. So there's no bullshitting him. But he was hard. He was hard. And a lot of the things that I like about a leader and a boss, I take from him, and a lot of things I don't like, I took from him. But that's him as a young leader. Like I said, I think he's evolved.
What's some of the things you don't take from him?
Well, sometimes I want to abuse my staff too, but I'm not allowed to. No. My first week, actually, it was really funny because when I got the job with Wizard, the story behind it was, I didn't tell you guys, was it wasn't just Mark. Mark had three investors. He had the directors, but one of them was the Packers. So you couldn't work for Wizard unless you were interviewed by someone in the Packer group. And because I was going into the legal side, Packer's main lawyer, who's now passed away, is Mark O'Brien, and he was a big defamation, big media lawyer. And they said, "Oh, you got the job, but as long as he likes you." And I was like, holy crap, and this big elderly man. Anyway, he ended up being one of my biggest mentors. I loved Mark. But what I was going to say was, it was all that kind of stuff that you can't do now. So I went and met him, and I was really intimidated by him. Then I thought, oh, great, I've got the job. This is great. I love the culture. It was really fun and hype and fast-paced. I love fast-paced. Doesn't bother me. And then we went into the boardroom. It was the first week I started working for him. So there's 4 directors, I should say, but Mark was the senior director or managing director. And they were trying to resolve a way to push forward they have a franchise group. And that's pretty much, so Wizard was owned by a senior company. So there was an in-house counsel there, but I was in the Wizard group. So we're all in the boardroom, and he asked for advice on how to do something. And I thought, being an upstart little know-it-all lawyer, I pretty much gave him the answer. You can't do that because the law says this, blah, 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 blah. And he picked up the textbook and he threw it. And can I swear?
No,
You can,
Yeah, right.
swear.
Sorry, switch off if you don't like swearing. It's a way of life, but unfortunately. But he said, if I fucking wanted to know what the textbook said, I would have fucking read it myself because I can read and write for myself. Find an answer. That's your job.
Wow.
So best lesson.
So you know where you stand, right?
Yes, but not just that. What did he actually teach me was don't regurgitate the law.
Say it in a way.
You've got to find a solution. Just because the law says that, he's not saying break the law. He's saying your job is to find a solution for this business. As in, okay, it's not what I want to do, but what can we do? And I didn't think that next step. And whilst that was probably something that I did, I don't cry a lot, but I reckon I did cry. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I was a mess after that. Talk about rocking in the corner.
Inside, on the inside, I'll take it.
Yeah, I just sort of went, and I couldn't believe what was happening. But back then, the behaviours inside of law firms and businesses was a little bit accepted like that. Not that I agree with it, obviously, but you don't say much. There's a lot of things I did in Wizard I probably didn't agree with now. But he taught me a lot. That's what I mean. So I didn't like the behaviours. Not that I think he's like that now, but I loved the lesson.
Yep.
And I've always been such a practical commercial lawyer because of it. And that's why I do really well with businesses, because I find solutions, Not just tell them you can't do that because that's what the law says. Yeah.
Your wide to find a
love that.
solution.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the answer. That's the answer I wanted. That's cool.
I'm glad because, like I said, I like a lot of things about Mark. That he's evolved. He's had such and he's done such a good job in that financial for bracket for Australia. Yeah.
We spoke before on chamber.
Yes, we didn't get there, did we?
No,
Yeah.
I as I was starting in business,
Yeah.
looking at different networking groups, I'd heard about chamber, and to be honest, and if I'm being frank, I thought that it was just a bunch of old people gathering together. At the time, right?
I went once, and I thought the same.
Do you think it's valuable for a business owner to join these type of things?
And what was your story with it? What was your experience with it?
I'll answer that, and then I'll talk about why I got involved. Maybe we'll start there. But do I think it's valuable? So this is back to, remember I said you've got to like attracts like, and you've got to find a purpose, and it's got to be real to you. So chamber to me, at the moment, all the chambers are quite good and quite healthy, but they're all fixated on that networking / bringing great speakers. If you think about chamber, if I said to you, what does chamber mean to you? I would suspect you would say, it's a lot of other businesses meet, hoping to network, and a speaker. But to me, chamber's not that. Chamber is about representing businesses in the area in every way. So advocacy. And when you're in an area that's growing or has challenges, such as Narellan did. Narellan had, when I started Coutts, the first part of the town centre stopped just outside of Woolworths. So we didn't have the resources you're thinking now, like one of the biggest shopping centres. We had some prominent families who were looking to grow the area but needed council, needed government, needed financial support, needed land, and so forth. So chamber has different formats. Well, it used to. And when I joined, so that's how I see chamber. But your perception of chamber was probably right, because chamber used to be run always by a president who was in his 60s plus and prominent businesses that were well established. And they probably, we used to go to the traffic committee. That's what I'm saying. Chamber has changed a lot even since I've been on it. But chamber's supposed to be there about businesses saying, this is what's going wrong with my business. They're not mowing the lawn. It looks like crap. This road doesn't look great, doesn't present well. We want to write a letter on behalf of all the businesses in Narellan to Camden Council to do that. That's how it used to work. That's what chamber used to be about. It's like a voice, a common voice, as well as bringing in a little bit of networking business to business. So chamber, like I said, where it is today, do I think it's worth it? I think it depends on your business. I think it depends on your business model, what you're trying to achieve, and who are the members. People just join chamber and don't look at the members, but the members might all be small business life. Yeah, well, I can be a life coach. You can be my life coach. No, but in all respect, you've got to look at the members, what they stand for, who's on the committee. I think that's a big thing, on who's on the committee and what they stand for as well. So I'm not going to say no. I love chamber. Chamber's worked really well for Coutts, but we're quite prominent. It's back to that alignment and expectation, but also I believe in chamber. But as a law firm, it works for us. But I don't know if it would work for your business. That's what I'm saying. So when I was trying to find what was working for Coutts, I went to Narellan Chamber, and I love Matt Layton. He was the president. I think he did 24 years as the president. And I think he owned Narellan Tyres on the main road. And he was lovely. And I went and I walked into the golf club off Lodges Road. That's where they used to hold the meetings. I think they had 23 members. 2 were female. I think I ended up being the 3rd. I walked in and I felt so unwelcomed. Now, most of those people that were in their room, I love them today. But back then, I didn't know what to do. So I went once. I liked the topic because I wanted to know what was going on in the area. I had a business in the area. I have property in the area. I wanted to know what was going on. So it used to be information as well that you couldn't get like the way we interact on social media now. That's why I'm saying chamber has evolved. And I thought, I really want to go to that, but I feel like, a shag on a rock. No one wants me there. No one talks to me. Everyone's thinking it's that man hater that just opened up the law firm down there. It's true. That's how they saw me, sort of thing. And so I didn't go for a while. And then I started to realise I needed to get information. I was really passionate about the area, so I went back. So what I did was I asked because my business started to grow, some of my business colleagues that were growing with me, and I said, 2 or 3 of them, why don't you come with me? So we came in, we became members, and we watched and we tried to, input. We were still a little bit on the outer, and I just used it as an information forum. But it had $2,000 in the bank and it had about 27 members. You wouldn't believe that of Narellan Chamber, but that's what it was. So there was a colleague. So it was building a little bit. And then Steve Grabowski, who's a financial planner in the area, said, I'm going to run for the board. I think some of us should run for the board, because we were whinging about the content, and he was a bit like me, be part of the solution, not the problem. I'm like, all right, they won't want me, but let's do that. They had vacancies and we got to step in. He stepped in as a vice president though, and I stepped in as a secretary. So they couldn't stop us because there was a vacancy and we put our hand up. So it was just a bit of a fluke moment. And then when we went in, and I'm a lawyer and I'm about structure and directorship, their meetings were terrible. They didn't really have a lot of money, but they had a lot of backing. Like, they had the big prominent families in the area. And I said, I think we should do this, we should do that. We probably ruffled feathers for about 18 months, and then Steve said, I want to run for presidency and I want to bring you on for vice president. And I said, okay. That was the most controversial chamber meeting I've ever been to, where so many people became members so they could vote. So we were advocating for people to be members to vote for us, and the old guard were advocating. And when talking about the old guard, I'm talking about the prominent families in the area. And they were saying, anyway, I think Steve got up by 1 vote. I think it was as close as that.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was upsetting, because now I reflect and think, God, we got rid of Matt after 24 years, because Matt ended up staying on and being a mentor of ours. So it wasn't bad blood, but it was bad blood at that stage. Anyway, so we evolved, and the chamber, and then Steve stepped off. I challenged Steve for the presidency. That's another story, maybe not for today.
Yeah, I think we need to get you on for a second. So many stories.
And so now the chamber's got a couple of $100,000 in the bank, and I think we got it to a membership of about 340 people. But the advocacy was my objective. The speakers. We had joint chamber. We created the joint chamber movement, which doesn't happen because none of us could afford $20,000 speakers. So we all joined, and we used to do this one business event of the year. I reckon it was 400. So the Premier's Breakfast is a different story. That was a fluke, but that's a Narellan Chamber. So with the Premier, so we had Narellan Chamber. We created all that. The other thing we did was sponsors. There never used to be sponsors, sponsorship levels, but we used to dedicate the money to certain community business events. Because chamber to me is about bringing economic drive into the economy, into the local chamber, the area. That's where Prairie Chamber doesn't do that as much anymore. But you got to remember, it's a growing area. It's not like now where it's very self-sufficient. So we created what's called Christmas in Narellan. The Narellan shopping centre, the owners, the Vitokos and the Perich Group wanted to create and give back to the community, but they wanted to do it with the chamber and the businesses to give back to the community. So we created what's called Christmas in Narellan. At that stage, there was that Christmas carols thing in Camden as well, and people were a bit against us. But the town centre had good we did it at the old site. I can't think what used to be there, but it used to be a petrol station, and there used to be like a car park outside of where Big W used to be. Remember, it used to be closer to Woolworths. It was only a bit of a strip. Yeah. So anyway, we did it in that car park, and we did it with a help. And then back then you could apply for $10,000 grants from Camden Council, because council would, community events, we would prove it's a community event. So we created a subcommittee. We created this event. It was a great event. We had Samantha Jade. We'd always bring like a really good singer. We had to pay for that singer, etc. And it was a free event. You came, everything there, face painting, pictures was for free. It was great. It's insurance and COVID issues why we don't have it now, but it went for almost 10 years. And Paul Mingay is one of the big families that used to own Narellan Motel, and he was my vice president, so he was in charge of that committee. Anyway, long story short, council were about to make a decision to give us $10,000 again for the 3rd year in a row, and a board member said something untoward about Camden Council. It got back to the councillors, and the councillors said, screw you guys, we're going to pull the money.
Really?
We needed that money. So this is not now today when we've got a couple of $100,000 in the bank. To put that event on, we needed about $60,000 to $70,000 because everything's for free. So $10,000, I think it was a little bit more than $10,000 actually. I was like, holy crap, we need that money. So we called a meeting, and Lara Zimkovic was the mayor at the time. The state member was Chris Patterson, who's now one of my really closest friends. and so is Lara. And they basically, I met them at bar ends and they just tore strips of me and of the chamber because I represented the chamber. This is the difficulty about being on any board I'm on. I get told off for a lot of things that I'm not responsible for, but you have to be. So I sat there and copped it, and they said you won't get the 10,000 because you got to work with council. Your chamber is anti-council. The story, I don't really want to go into what was actually said. That's very personal to certain people. And I remember Paul Mingo, who's the nicest person, saying to me, Adriana, you need to fix this. We need that money. Find a way. So when I said to Lara and Chris, look, we don't want to fight, but we're going to fight unless we come up with a solution. They realised we were genuine. We were doing it for the right reasons. Lara and Chris were very much about the community. So they were like, all right, well, the time's passed. We can't give you the 10,000 because they've got rules. So Chris Patterson said to me, but I can give you the treasurer to come out and speak. If you can sell tables, Civic Centre will donate the time, the centre, so you don't have to pay for the centre, and you can just make the money off the tickets you can use for Christmas in Narellan. And it was Mike Baird was the treasurer at the time, which wasn't because Barry O'Farrell was the premier. So Mike Baird came out and did this. We sold it 300, and I think we made about $12,000-$13,000. Yeah, it was great. It was a great breakfast, and Mike Baird was very personal. So we were lucky who was sitting in that seat as well, and everyone loved him, sort of thing. So then I basically was being a little bit cheeky and said, well, you're coming back next year because I wanted to make the money again. And he was good. He was really, really good. And you know what? The other thing we take for granted today is no politicians came to Camden. They wouldn't even look twice at us. Why would we come out there? We weren't a growth. There was no Oran Park. It was
still Camden Farm.
It was Camden Farm. That's right. And so they're not going where there's no people.
Yeah.
So I did the cheeky thing of, well, you've got to agree. I'm going to ask you in front of everyone. You're going to have to say yes. You're coming back next year.
That's the best way to put them on the spot in front of a crowd.
In front of everyone. My dad told me to do that. So anyway, he said yes because he didn't know what to say. He's a politician. He's thinking, I'm not going to say no in front of all these people. And then the Barry O'Farrell thing happened and Mike Baird became premier. So Mike Baird's office then says, okay, such and such treasurer, I can't remember who it was, is coming out. I said, no. Mike Baird promised me Mike Baird's coming. And they're like, no, we're not. It's the treasurer. The treasurer you booked? And I said, no. I argued with them. And then I got Mike Baird's number and I rang him and I said, I will tell everybody that you said no unless you come. And then we nicknamed it the Premier's Breakfast, and we've had the Premier's Breakfast for 10 years now. And then Gladys came, then you've got Chris Minns and different parties. They're all coming.
Yeah.
But obviously the area grew and they were like, we're not saying no to that area, are we?
No, they want to.
And it was just a fluke, but it's one of my, I love that. I love that we've created that.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we put us on the map. And because of that opportunity, I did get a lot of time at the table with the Premier, be it Mike, be it was Gladys. When I was president, I was advocating for the area, and that's all I wanted to achieve.
So good.
Yeah.
Well done. Awesome. That's a cool story.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we're kind of out of time.
We need to start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Adriana, I'm going to tell you, this has been one of the best conversations we've had.
Oh, that's lovely.
I just think
Thank you.
You're an awesome person. You're very authentic, and you've worked so hard for this area, and you should be proud of that.
I'm very proud of the area. So that's back to that. So there's always a point to the stories. I'm a big advocate for this area. Yeah. Don't call us the Southwest and then name Parramatta, because you want to see steam come out of my ears. I will be very vocal about that. We're Southwest. We're Macarthur. We deserve the services that Sydney get. We pay the same taxes. Our kids have the same right to the same resources as every other child in New South Wales. We are a very prominent area, and they need to start knowing what we are.
Yeah, Ben. Okay, so you get that.
No, I agree. I mean, look,
you're very passionate about that.
The Connect family, we want to be the next movement, and the next wave of.
These are doing very well.
We're focused on this area, right? Like the whole idea is the guests that are coming on are advocates for this area as well, or have a connection to the Macarthur, Campbelltown region.
Yeah.
So we are definitely big advocates, but it's good to see, because we all know a bit about you, but to hear that story and just even hearing about Coutts, it's very inspiring. And do you have any, advice for the next generation of females that wanting to get into this, or not even females, but just the next generation of?
Look, I don't have anything outside the box. I just think if you want to do something, just put your mind to it and put a plan behind it. I was sitting next to this lady at a networking group just recently when I was invited to speak, and I wanted to speak because it was definitely the audience that I wanted to empower. And she said to me, I want to grow my business like you did. And I said, great. She's been in business for a while. She goes, yeah, I just need this to happen and then this to happen. Like, as in, I'll wait. All I heard was, I'll wait. And I said, okay, what's the plan to get to that milestone? No plan. And I said to her, I'll see you in 3 years and we'll be having the same conversation.
Yep.
So my answer to that is, if you put your mind to it, put something behind it.
Don't procrastinate.
Tomorrow's, like some of my staff go, they fixate on career. Sienna's a really good example of, it's never the right time to have kids if you want a career, but is nothing like today. If it's meant to be, it will be, because you just got to prioritize things at certain times in your life. And that's what I'm doing in my world, is I prioritize the business to provide for my family, to provide for my career, my mental health, etc. Sometimes my kids take priority. Sometimes my other kid, Coutts, takes priority. Like, what it's saying is, you just got to understand and be really transparent about it. So back to my advice is, if you're really genuine about something, you not just write it on a page, but have a plan behind it. Or if it's because you need money, speak to you, speak to a planner, what are you doing about it? Yeah. Don't just say, I want to.
Well, there are a lot of people that come in that just want to have a first meeting to discuss setting up a business. And when you talk about cash flow, you talk about structure of business, you talk about where are you going to get your leads from.
Yeah.
None of these questions have been answered. And it's just that I just need more money.
Yeah.
Right? It's more money.
That's the worst reason to get into business.
You need to be passionate and you want to genuinely help in what you do.
Yeah.
100%.
I think all of us in what we're doing is because we genuinely love what we do.
And people are attracted to people who are happy and passionate.
Yep. Like you can see the stress, like you're going through a lot of this stress, opening up this new, you're doing it because of the bigger goal, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Like our group chat is dead this week because of how busy Ben is. Like we're always talking to each other, but we know that Ben's going through a lot.
Yeah.
And you go through those stresses to get to the bigger goal and the freedom and just being able to help more
I need to share this with you. People think, you do a lot and you say a lot. But, when I was chamber president, or I used to go to BNI's one night where you boys met and we met as well. But I used to go to BNI at 6 o'clock in the morning. My dad used to get up, and my husband was a shift worker back then. He's a teacher now, but he was a shift worker. It wasn't as easy as our life is now. And my dad used to get up, come and watch Sienna, and I used to go to networking. Then I'd go to work and they'd take care of my daughter. And then with chamber, I used to finish chamber at 9:30, 10 o'clock because I was the president and you have to wrap everything up. And then I used to go and drive to the Oaks because my husband was a shift worker at certain times, and I'd go and pick Sienna up at that time of night. It's not great. Like, people don't realise that when they say to me, oh, you're so lucky. I said, lucky? No, I just had a plan and I focused. And sometimes the sacrifice you have to make sucks. Yeah, it really does.
But you don't show that. You don't show that
you're
side.
Torn between trying to balance that
100%,
and also chasing your own goals.
100%.
We know how much impact that we're making, and I think that's why
right.
I'm continuing to put myself in those level of discomfort because I know that I can impact the community.
That's a great way to put it. A level of discomfort. I love that. I love that.
But it's also a juggling act.
It is.
In trying to do that, sometimes you're like, wow, and that's what I was thinking before as you were telling me all these things. Do you ever have that moment where you're like, I've had enough? Like,
yes, 100%. I'd be a lie if I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I have said to my husband, actually, I have to leave the country to relax. I know that, and I
had here. What's your favorite place to travel?
So Hawaii. We're Hawaii. So we're
going to ask.
Yeah, sorry, but I have to leave the country. We've done a lot of trips around Australia. Hockey's taken us around Australia as well. Both my girls playing hockey, but I don't. There's no downtime. And then there's a 3-day thing. So I have a massive, massive meltdown day 2 or 3 of our holidays because my body's unwinding and I just don't know how to shut down.
Yeah,
and then it's like day 3, day 4, I'm a different person.
And I can be on holidays.
Yeah, but I have to be overseas. And I know I'm not being arrogant. Nothing else works for me.
We do the exact same thing. We work all year round, but we always have that one holiday.
We're the same.
We're focused on that.
That's right. That's right. I love your goal. Good on you.
Wrapping this up, let's punch through a few questions Ben has, and then I'll go through my last questions.
Sure.
Go for it.
All right, off the cuff, ready? You can't think. You just want to shoot them out, all right? First one, beach or country?
Oh, beach.
Beach.
Okay.
Beach girl. Your first car.
Oh, a Mitsubishi Lancer that I did.
Yes.
That's a
drag raced down the main street of Camden in year 12 because I thought I was so cool.
Did you cut the springs? Did you cut the springs? And then
Yeah. I mean, I'm European. Let's not go there.
I had favourite place to travel to, but
Hawaii.
Hawaii for sure.
I mean, you can't go past Europe. I love seeing my family and all that, but Hawaii is my relax.
Where, like in Waikiki?
Oh, we've been to all the islands, but if I want to shop, Waikiki, because I love that you can shop. I love that you can be on the beach. I love the kids can do whatever they want, but I actually like Maui the best. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's real, like Hawaii.
that's real Hawaii. Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. 'Cause
Okay.
I didn't write them down.
I'll take it over. We've started this thing. We're gonna start. Anytime we bring on a guest, we finish the conversation with this one question.
Sure.
If you were to take 3 people out for dinner,
Oh,
and these 3 people would be anyone from your current, present, or anyone in the history, who would those 3 people be, and why?
yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Well, I'm going to be really honest. If she was still alive, I'd say the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
How could you not want to pick her brain? She's been through every change in the world, like in her tenure, and the female challenge. From a personal, I'm a massive Elvis Presley fan. Hi, Hawaii. So got to have Elvis there singing to me for sure.
Oh, baby.
Oh my God, my third one. Oh, I don't really know. Who's the third one? There's so many female. Look, how can you go past Richie Branson?
Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Richie
That's
Branson.
interesting.
I think he's just someone I'd pick my. So like a little bit of fun, a little bit of history, and a little bit of business. How's that for you?
That's an awesome dinner.
Yeah.
Awesome dinner.
Adriana, we want to thank you.
Yes,
Thank
this
you.
has
It
been
was
an
very easy.
Incredible conversation. We went everywhere with it. We had a lot of fun. We learned a lot. There was a lot of gold nuggets in it. And
Thank
just
you.
from us here, wanted to thank you for coming on, and we'll probably have you on again.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you, boys. I really enjoyed it, and I feel very humbled and honoured to be asked. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on. And we do this with all our guests. If you just want to close us off, look at the camera and let everyone know to connect. We'll close it up like that.
Make sure you connect with these boys. Connect.
Hey.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyway, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, you.
Adriana.
Thank you.
We made this a free platform because we want to educate and add value to your business world. All we ask for as a payment is to hit the subscribe button and share it with people that you know would benefit from this conversation. If you want to elevate your connections, we'll see you at the next Connect Macarthur event.